Welcome back, my silent and deadly assassins. In this video, I kind of want to briefly go over some of the exotics, armor pieces that are changing in Season 21, and possibly give you a little insight or a little heads up, maybe a little tip for some weapons to pair along with these exotic changes that are coming. And I thought about doing this video actually last week, but I thought I would wait for this week to see if we did get exotic weapon or weapon changes in this week's blog post. And we actually did get that this past Wednesdays. I'm kind of glad I waited because there are some sleepers that are getting buffs, and I think they're going to fit in pretty well with some of these exotic armor changes. So let's get into talking about the hunters. Arthur's Embrace. Now, if you don't know about Arthur's Embrace, it is an exotic gauntlet for the hunter, and it has a perk called Skittering Stinger. Now, the weighted knife gains a second bounce. Rapid precision hits with your weapon grant a weighted knife a significant damage bonus and the ability to stun unshielded combatants for a short time. The recent change here to Arthur's Embrace is you're going to get additional strength while the exotic weighted knife damage is active. I've never really used this in PvE, and I know some people kind of swear by it in PvP, but I'm actually intrigued here. I am intrigued because if you compare this with the right exotic, really, you can probably get your knife up pretty quickly. And one of the exotic weapons that I really think I'm going to give a go at is Monte Carlo. Monte Carlo is a really good weapon that you can pair with this and kind of chain those knife throws one after another, just kind of keep it going. I think this could be a really good pairing. Another kind of weapon or weapons to probably use is any kind of legendary weapons, I would say, that use Pugilist and Swashbuckler, especially those two kind of combined together. I think that would be pretty interesting, as you know, you're going to be getting damage bonuses from Swashbuckler on knife kills, and you're also going to be getting your melee energy back with Pugilist and also from the exotic, so it helps you get your knife up even faster. So anyways, that's kind of what I'll be looking here for Arthur's Embrace, but I was really kind of intrigued here, just getting the additional strength while the exotic weighted knife damage bonus is going to be active. The next one for hunters is the Radiant Dance Machines. Okay, so the exotic perk here for the legs here on the Radiant Dance Machines is activating your dodge ability while near targets allows you to dodge additional times for a short period. Now basically it lasts for 6 seconds and you can dodge basically 6 times. I'm curious how many of the restrictions they're actually going to remove here on Radiant Dance Machines. This used to be very strong when it first came out. You used to be able to just super regen so quickly, non-stop, as long as you were near enemies. But here with this update, Radiant Dance Machines, kills while your free dodge is active extend the duration of free dodge. No longer deactivates when you are too far away from enemies. Deactivates after using Suspending Slam. So a little bit of a strand. Probably not going to be the best to maybe pair it with, but we'll see when we get our hands on it. In this dev commentary, adding the time extension on kills allows this to pair extremely well with Marksman Dodge, the Reaper Armor mod, and the new Powerful Attraction mod that allows you to collect orbs of power at a distance. During playtesting, players could have free dodges for long stretches, pulling down a large number of orbs. However, allowing it to continue granting free suspending slams made it a little too easy to create an infinite orb generating machine without ever having to risk your own survival. When I saw the Radiant Dance Machines actually come up in this changes here in this blog post, I was very intrigued because it definitely makes it seem like there's going to be a lot less restrictions on dodges over a longer period of time. So, you know, are we going to be able to use a scout rifle and just kind of dodge, you know, at farther distances? You know, we're not going to have to be all that close. It doesn't seem like we're going to be capped at like 6 dodges over 6 seconds, that kind of thing. So I think we're going to have a lot more flexibility in the gameplay, or at least that's how I'm kind of reading it. I'd be kind of curious to see if that is the way it plays out. So it's just really going to be interesting to see how long the dance buff, I guess, lasts and what kind of restrictions are around that. And to be pretty honest, I'm kind of interested to maybe even try this on just about any subclass. I don't really think a weapon's going to really dictate too much. There are some great ideas for subclasses where this could be really, really strong. And really, what might not be a bad way to do it is pair it with Gambler's Dodge, where you throw your melee and you use your dodge to get it back, whatever your melee ability is, you know, just assuming you get a kill or whatever, just to make sure you keep extending your dodge. So there's some really good type of synergies that can be had across many of the different subclasses. I'm not really going to talk too much about weapons here, but I just want to bring up that this is one that could be very, very interesting, especially since it doesn't seem like you're going to be tied so much to a close range type aspect. The third and last one I want to talk about for the hunters, at least, is the Mask of Baccharis. Now, as we currently know in the game, if you dodge with a stasis subclass, you get increased arc damage. But with the new changes that are coming in Season 21, we're actually going to get a damage increase for those arc weapons from 10% to 25%, and they will not stack with your leg mods, so no need to really equip your leg mods. But real quick, one of the main questions I actually have about a lot of these exotics that are going to this, you know, non-stacking weapon damage bonus that kind of is replacing the surge mods, that way they're kind of going to have it already intrinsically, is how do we activate it? Is it activated upon one kill? Is it activated upon picking up an orb of power? And how long kind of does it last? Because currently, right now in damage phase, you pick up an orb of power and you get, you know, weapon surge. So if they're kill activated and we're in a damage phase, then obviously these surge mods, they're going to be running off and not being used during damage phases. So it is just something that I kind of want to be aware of. I want you to be aware of that. We need to really make sure we understand how these weapon damage bonuses are being applied, how they get extended, how they get activated, and things like that. So just something I really quick wanted to bring up. But some of the weapons I'm actually looking to pair with this is really any great ad clear arc weapon or boss weapon. You know, like Trinity's Ghoul sounds like it might be really good here. Trespasser might not be bad. I'm really going to be interested in giving Legend of Acris probably a go because it's getting an increase in ammo reserves in this next season, so that's going to be huge. Grand Overture, I mean, I know that that thing does a lot of burst damage, so that could be really good. And possibly even Wardcliff Coil. And there's a lot of other great legendary weapons that you could probably pair with this. You know, rockets, shotguns, that kind of stuff. But I'm really kind of just more of trying to find those exotics that will pair up and sync really well together. All right, moving on to Titans. So we got a lot of exotics that are getting changes here, especially some that are going to get some pretty good synergies revolving around weapons. So let's just take a look here, starting with Point Contact Cannon Brace. Now, many of us know that this hasn't really been one of the best of exotics to have. So let's just real quick see what the exotic is about. It has the exotic perk Hammer of the Gods. Defeating targets with your Thunderclap melee restores melee energy. Targets near you when you use your Thunderclap suffer lightning strikes. Being amplified increases the range of these lightning strikes. So the change that's coming in Season 21 is lightning strikes now jolt targets. Increase PvE damage per lightning bolt from 50 to 200. Being amplified now increases the damage of the lightning strikes by 50% instead of extending the range. So since we have a really strong melee exotic here, and it sounds like it's getting a little bit better here, and I'm really glad. I'm thinking really any kind of close range weapon that has Pugilist and Swashbuckler on it might be a really good pairing here. Monte Carlo also might be a really good fit here. Traveler's Chosen actually might be a really good fit here, as is a sidearm, close range, getting kills, being able to recharge your melee ability pretty quickly. And possibly Risk Runner, but this is a conditional one, if the lightning bolts are able to proc Arc Conductor. I don't know if that will be able to happen, but it is one of those situations. Sometimes things like that are in the game, and they are like unique, weird synergies. So it'd be interesting to see if that actually does play out that way. How about Delicate Tomb? Delicate Tomb could be a really good one. A very strong close-up weapon, which generates arc traces, which make you amplified, which then increases your melee damage. So pretty good synergies there with Delicate Tomb. Legend of Acris. As you kind of get in to mix it up, close range, one thing that you really want from anything is it to die and die quickly. Legend of Acris usually kills whatever it hits. All right, moving on, we got No Backup Plans. So No Backup Plans are getting a complete rework, replacing the old functionality entirely. Now provides a moderate benefit to the airborne effectiveness and reload speed of shotguns, which that reload speed could be pretty crucial if we ever go back to a double slug shotgun meta. While you have a Void Overshield, shotguns deal additional damage, and shotgun final blows refresh your overshield. While using a Void subclass, Rapid shotgun final blows or defeating a powerful enemy with a shotgun grants you a void overshield and kicks off your health regeneration. So this sounds pretty fantastic. But the thing I like most about this is you don't have to use this with a void subclass. Okay. So if you do have a Nessus Oblation with destabilizing rounds and repulsor brace or something like that, then obviously you can get your void overshield and you can kind of keep rolling with it. You get that extra damage and shotgun final blows, then refresh your void overshield, that kind of thing. So it'd be real interesting to see some synergies there, not just on a void subclass Titan. But some other really good weapons to maybe even pair with this: tractor cannon. Tractor cannon would get a lot of fun running around debuffing enemies, and if you have an overshield, obviously you get that shotgun out, get off some other shots. You know, it could be a really strong combination. Legend of Acreus could be a very solid pick here. As you get a void overshield, Legend of Acreus actually gets a damage increase as well. That could be a lot of fun. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to be looking forward to pair this with conditional finality. Conditional finality being really good right now. And one loadout I'm kind of tempted to kind of get in there and try out is actually doing an all shotgun loadout, or maybe I do tractor cannon and 2 legendaries. So going to be very interested to kind of get in there and mix it up with no backup plans. I'm really kind of glad to see they've made this change. All right, the next Titan exotic, another gauntlet, Second Chance. So if we don't know what the Second Chance exotic perk is, it's Myrmidon's Reach. Gain a second charge of your shield throw melee, which becomes shield piercing and stuns shield piercing barrier champions. Now, Second Chance is getting a little bit of a buff here, as it's obviously been a little underperforming. Shield throw melees now weakens enemies. Very interesting. Stunning a barrier champion with your shield throw melee grants a single full melee charge. Man, let me tell you, that is pretty cool. I'm going to be pretty honest, that's pretty cool. So whenever you come up to a barrier champion, you do damage to them where they pop their shield. You throw your melee, the shield goes, breaks the champion. He is now weakened, and I'm probably going to assume it's going to be a 15% weakened debuff, not a 30%. And then you just get up there and smack him around with like a couple slug shotgun shots. I think this has some pretty good utility and some maybe even higher end content. Sounds pretty fun, especially when you pair it with some other build crafting elements. But some exotics to actually pair with this, honestly, Monte Carlo sounds like it might be a really good pick here. Traveler's Chosen could be a really good one. And one that I'm very interested to try out is Legend of Acreus. Because if you don't know, Legend of Acreus had a change a little while back, but it has a trench barrel on it now. And so throwing that melee and getting a melee hit now procs Legend of Acreus, and boom, you probably get up there, probably one-shot him with the weaken on him and trench barrel active. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really interested in kind of trying that out. Another one that would be a lot of fun to pair with this, Collective Obligation. One of the cool things is you throw and use a melee ability as a Void Titan, you will be able to get Weaken out there now using Second Chance, and also Volatile. And with Collective Obligation, you will be able to leech those two and continue to use them back out into the battlefield. So a really good way to kind of help keep that Weaken and Volatile rounds out in the battlefield. Another Titan exotic we got is Stronghold. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about Stronghold, but I'm very interested to see kind of how some of these changes work. And if you don't know how the exotic perk works, Clenched Fist maximizes guard stats on equipped swords. Shots blocked immediately after guarding will heal you. That's the part that's changing. They're actually going to change it to replace the healing from blocking shots precisely with significant damage reduction. 50% PvE, 10% PvP, while blocking with a sword. When you stop blocking, gain restoration times 2 with a duration that increases based on the number of shots you blocked. Dev commentary: the original heal on perfect guard mechanic was swapped out for damage reduction to improve ease of use. The previous version of perfect guard incentivized rapid blocking and releasing of the block to be most effective, which was unintuitive for most players and inaccessible to some. The change to damage reduction while blocking and restoration after you stop blocking allows you to close to melee range even against powerful enemies and stay alive while delivering attacks thanks to restoration. Conveniently, this also pairs well with a certain exotic sword such as the Lament. So obviously there's going to be some questions here. Is Obviously, how long is that duration? How many shots do you got to take to get that duration up? Because after this goes live, there's going to be 2 ways to get restoration ×2 in the game. One of them's on Warlock. This will be the other one. Very interested to check this out actually on the Titan. And really, if you pair this with the Solar Titan and you're getting solar weapon kills and solar ability kills after you stop blocking, you can keep that restoration ×2 up and keep going with it. So very interested to see kind of how strong that is. I don't think you're just going to be limited to just Solar Titan to get that restoration ×2 after blocking, but if you want to keep that restoration ×2 going, probably going to have to be on a Solar Titan, but it's going to be a lot of interesting to see how that kind of works. Also with certain fragments and stuff like that. Another question I'm going to kind of have here is, how long is the possible cooldown? Is there a cooldown between getting restoration ×2 and then, like, if it falls off like after 4 seconds or 5 seconds after you stop blocking, you know, is there like a 15-second cooldown before you can get that restoration ×2 again? Something like that. Just kind of curious to see if there is something like that. There's no mention of that here, but going to be very interesting, because if not, it could be a really good way to kind of obviously keep that restoration ×2 going. Restoration ×2, very strong. It used to be on the Lordly Splendor helmet, but it was a little too strong in PvP, so they actually took it down. All right, the last Titan exotic I want to kind of briefly go over real quick is Eternal Warrior. Nobody has really used this since back in like vanilla D2 kind of era, because I mean, it's just been so far past the meta. But the exotic perk that it comes with is Resolute. Gain an overshield when activating Fist of Havoc, if you didn't know that. And that's all it is. That's why it's hugely underused. And now it's not a complete rework. It's just getting about 90 things added on top of the overshield from casting Fist of Havoc. You're going to now be able to get rapid takedowns with an arc weapon, grant an escalating bonus to arc weapon damage using the same non-stacking damage bonuses used by surge mods. So these are those surge mods that go on your legs. This can now go all the way up to tier 4 damage bonus, granting a damage bonus of 25% in PvE and 6% in PvP, providing a larger bonus than can be achieved with 3 surge mods equipped. While at the tier 4 damage bonus, arc kills refresh the bonus duration. After your Fist of Havoc super ends, you gain the tier 4 damage bonus. So there's a few really, really good things here. One, this could be a very strong ad clear exotic. And 2, this could also be a great boss damage exotic. Hate to really kind of even say that, but not to say it's going to be the boss damage meta, but could be really good paired with the right heavy exotics if you're set up for it. So some exotics to kind of maybe even pair with this. Trinity Ghoul could be a really good exotic here to pair with Eternal Warrior, as you'll be able to get up that tier 4 weapon damage bonus, and obviously just getting kills out in the battlefield will keep that extended and keep that timer going, and that would be a really good way to kind of keep Trinity Ghoul just kind of rolling through and knocking out some enemies. Trespasser could also be a really interesting one if you do like that close range, just getting in there and just waxing a whole bunch of enemies at close range. Could be a really good way to go. On the heavy side, I think Wardcliff Coil might be a pretty good way to go at the end of using your damage. Obviously, you're going to get that tier 4 damage bonus right after your super, and you'll be able to use your heavies. Wardcliff Coil could be really well set up for that. Legend of Acrius could also be another great setup here, as you're going to be getting even more ammo for Legend of Acrius starting in season 21, so that sounds like that'd be pretty good. Grand Overture, imagine going into a damage phase ready to go with the full rocket barrage. Pop your super, at the end of your super, pop off all the rocket barrage. So yeah, that could be a really good setup there. But if you do go the exotic heavy route, you could definitely go with a really good legendary arc ad clear weapon. You know, there's some pretty good ones out there that would pair really well with this exotic. All right, moving on to the Warlock, and Warlock has one that I am really excited to try out. But the first one we're going to talk about is Vesper of Radius. The exotic perk is Planetary Torrent. Rifts release an arc shockwave when cast. Rift energy recharges faster when you are surrounded by enemies. The change that is coming for Vesper of Radius is your rifts emit an arc shockwave every 5 seconds that deal damage. 200 in PvE and 70 in PvP. Enemies defeated by these shockwaves explode for an additional 100 damage. And if you have arc subclass equipped, also blind nearby enemies. I actually have some questions how this exotic is going to work. Blind on nearby enemies. Is that going to be on the killing of the enemy for the extra 100 damage and blind nearby enemies? That's kind of the way I take it. Some other people take it as, you know, the arc pulse is blinding also nearby enemies. I don't take it as that, just because it's not up there in that sentence, right? It's at the second sentence, and it's actually at the end. But the other aspect I'm kind of curious here on Vesper Radius is whenever you pop a rift with Vesper Radius, it actually pops at the 2-second mark into your rift timer. So the rift lasts for 15 seconds, but your first arc pop, you know, using the rift now with Vesper Radius before we get to season 21, it pops at 2 seconds. Okay, so every 5 seconds then after that, it would pop at 7 seconds, it would pop at 12 seconds, and then that would be all you would get. So you're gonna get 3 pops. So I'm really hoping they actually have changed it to where it pops on 0 seconds, and then obviously it pops at 5, 10, and 15 at the end. It gives you a little bit more of that protection if things are coming around you. Hopefully that is the case. But I'm not really too excited about Vesper Radius unless the Arc Shockwave procs Risk Runner's Arc Conductor. If it does that, I would be very interested actually in pairing Risk Runner with Vesper Radius. Another possibly good pairing, but not really a weapon, is on the Stasis subclass, the Frost Pulse aspect. Some pretty good synergies there. Frost Pulse freezes nearby targets, and obviously with the Arc Shockwave, you're talking about doing damage to them every 5 seconds with an Arc Pulse. Could be interesting there. I do want to see, you know, the Arc Shockwave proc more on the Risk Runner than I really probably care with anything else, but that's just kind of where I'm at with it. The next exotic we want to talk about is Chromatic Fire. The exotic perk here is Crystalline Transistor. Precision final blows with your kinetic weapon create an explosion in the element of your subclass. The change that's coming to Chromatic Fire is increased the radius and damage of the explosion created by the Precision Kinetics takedown. The explosion also applies a status effect to targets damaged by it, depending on which subclass you have equipped. Let me tell you, this is the one exotic out of all these I'm looking forward to playing with the most. For Arc, you get Blind. Solar, you get Scorch. Stasis, Slow. Strand, Sever. Void, Weaken. Dude, this is going to be such a fun exotic to play around with. Could just be a great base exotic just to have on, because it works across all your subclasses. It makes some pretty good effects kind of out there. Be curious to see if all of those like 3.0 effects apply also in the same range and the radius that they said they're increasing up to. So just going to be curious to see how that works. But what I'm really most interested in, a lot of weapon synergies here. Really, I think you could pair this with any great weapon, as long as it's kinetic, not just in the kinetic slot, not stasis, not strand weapons. We're talking about kinetic weapons only. So Crimson sounds like a great weapon to pair it with, because remember, on Crimson, as you get precision final blows, you get the magazine reloaded and you get health regen. Really good pairing here. You can also pair that with like something like Void. Oh man, that could be really powerful. One a lot of people I think are sleeping on is Jade Rabbit. Now I'm not going to go too much into the exotic weapon changes, but Jade Rabbit, and this is one big reason why I'm glad I waited till this week to do this video, is getting a buff. It's not a huge buff, but it could be a really good buff. As you get 3 precision hits, you get 3 rounds back in the mag. So you could get into a situation where you never really have to reload as long as you're getting your precision hits. And so you could chain non-stop with Jade Rabbit. And Jade Rabbit is really good at getting those precision hits, especially since it has Zen Moment. And this will allow you to kind of also stay back at range if you need to do that. Another one is Mida Multi-Tool. Mida Multi-Tool is really good at getting precision shots as well. But I think the one I'm most looking forward to is Outbreak Perfected. Checking out how it works with Void Weaken or Stasis and that slow ability. Both of those sound really great, and especially on Stasis in a group of ads, if you're able to freeze combatants with 2 back-to-back precision final blows and they freezes an area, and then you kind of keep proccing precision final blows, you kind of get some more freezing kind of going on after that. Could be a really good way to kind of use Chromatic Fire. Void Weaken, obviously you're following the nanites here with Outbreak Perfected, and you're just going from one target to the next. Could be a lot of fun. Next exotic is Sanguine Alchemy. The exotic perk, Blood Magic. Weapon kills while standing in any rift, pause the rift countdown, extending its duration. Further kills maintain and extend the length of the pause. The change that's coming is standing in a rift grants a non-stacking bonus to weapon damage matching your subclass damage type. The damage bonus is equivalent to 2 surge leg mods, 17% PvE and 4.5% PvP. Obviously, this is just like throwing down a healing and empowering rift at the same time, same spot. So this is going to be really good, especially probably for solo content, solo people. Probably going to have a really good time with this one. And I don't really have any specific weapons, as there's a lot that kind of fit into here that would be really good. But anything that is really good at kind of long, medium to longer range ad clearing, so I'm thinking like pulse rifles, scouts, going to be really good. But this has been one exotic I've been really wanting to try out for the past couple of years. I just never really have given it a go, but this is probably going to get me to do it. As basically, they're just giving you more damage while just standing in a healing rift. So this sounds pretty good for me. And the last one is a big one, Starfire Protocol with the exotic perk Fusion Harness. Fusion grenades have additional charge and recharge from empowered weapon damage. Fusion grenade kills grant rift energy. The change that's coming is reduce the amount of energy gained per instance of damage from 20% to 2.5%. Empowered weapon kills now grant 20% grenade energy. So this is a pretty good one. There's some dev commentary there if you would like to read that. I'm not going to read that. It's kind of long, kind of extended, and it's something that I believe everybody in the community we already knew. We already knew how strong Starfire Protocol was, what everybody was using it for. Everybody was using it for literally everything. We were using it for ad clear, we were using it for damage phases, and really, it's not as bad as what you think. I think where a lot of people are really upset about this is obviously they're not going to be able to steamroll through boss fights anymore by being in a well and throwing a wither horde on the boss and just going to town with another weapon and getting their fusion grenades back and throwing fusion grenades. So yeah, there's definitely some changes here, but you know, all you got to do is be in your empowered rift and get like 4 kills, get 5 kills, and that's it. Like that's all you got to do. So there's some weapons that you could pair with this. Obviously, you know, you got that 15-second window while you got that empowered rift down to get your kills, to get your grenades back. And obviously, once your rift's probably gone, you just throw your grenade out there, get some kills, get your rift back, you throw it down. You know, so the cycle is still there. I think more on the ad clearing side, but probably not going to be as good in the, you know, boss damage type fights and that kind of thing is doing the boss damage. But it's still probably going to be a great way to help clear ads with those fusion nades, keep the battlefield kind of clear, and getting your super back, getting well back as fast as possible. But some weapons, you know, to pair with this is anything that can quickly clear the battlefield, get some easy kills. Like Trinity's Ghoul is a really good one to pair with this. So yeah, you just need to be able to get those quick kills to make sure you're getting your grenades back. And then when you get your grenades, obviously you want to get them out there, get some kills from throwing some grenades out there, get your rift back, and also getting your super back up kind of quicker. But yeah, it definitely slows down, you know, being able to get well up. But I don't think it's a complete dead exotic. I know this one hurts, but I don't think it's that dead. So hopefully you enjoyed this. I didn't want to fully go into builds, as, you know, once we get into the new season, season 21, you know, we'll see kind of how some of the vagueness of the wording and kind of how some of that breaks down in gameplay. And obviously, you know, we're going to get the artifact and we'll see kind of what synergizes really well with some of these exotics. So, all right, be silent, be deadly.